Hi, I'm Matt Bond from Melbourne, Ohio, four-time rammer. I just couldn't get enough. Welcome to the Ohio Ram Show.
Well, thank you, Matt Bond, for that introduction. Ran into him last May in Chillicothe, Ohio, at the food stop for the tour of the Scioto River Valley, which he has done many times, I have done many times, and is so glad to see Matt once again. And the Ohio Ram Show, a show about cycling and ultracycling, is back from summer vacation. We're back at our base here in Dayton, Ohio. I don't know where the show's been all summer. It's been here, there, and what have you. But we're glad to have it back and here in our base here in Dayton, Ohio, which we have called the City of Invention. We've talked about that before. You have heard about the Wright brothers who invented controlled flight. You have heard about Charles Kettering, who invented the self-starter for automobiles and other devices. But there's many other inventions that happen here, and we'll get to some of them from time to time. But one I want to tell you about that most Ohioans, most Daytonians don't know about. Cheez-Its was invented right here in Dayton, Ohio by the Green and Green Cracker Company, way back when. And it's a wonderful product. I highly recommend it for all of you whose doctor has told them that they need more salt and fat in their diet. So if that's the case with you, try some Cheez-Its. This is show number 165. It's a bit late behind in its schedule because we had some technical glitches here, well, namely a hard drive failure that took a day out of our planning, but we're back at it. Well, this is show number 165. We're a little bit late with our schedule. As we had announced, we are going to have the show twice a month rather than 3 times a month this season on the first and third Thursdays of each month. Now, if we get a backlog of guests, we may return to our 3 times a month schedule, but for right now, we're going to stick with twice a month. Well, the show is a product of time stations 41 and 42, Oxford and Blanchester, Ohio, time stations in the race across America. These wonderful people run these during the race each June. On today's show, we're going to have Jim Rees. We're going to London, England to meet with Jim. Jim is a 3-time Ram participant. He has written a number of books, which brings me to talk about the show notes. At the bottom of every video on ohioramshow.com, the site you see there on your screen, we have show notes, which in this case will refer to Jim's books as well as his website. Always be sure to check the show notes if you're watching the show on the website, ohioramshow.com. If not, just go there, look up show number 165, and you'll see them. So with that said, let's head on over to London, England and meet with Jim Rees. So we're headed over to Sheffield, England, and Jim Rees. How are you doing today, Jim?
Excellently, really well, thank you, and fantastic to be here with you. My evening, your afternoon.
Yes, well, we have a round globe, and that creates some challenges for us from time. Jim, first of all, tell us a little about yourself, a little about your history, and how you came into cycling.
It depends on how long you want the history. I can go on for hours. I'll give you a quick synopsis. I'm English born. I grew up in England, and at the ripe age of 4, we emigrated over to Australia. So I grew up as a young boy in Australia, got a bit of an Aussie twang, and then when I was 21, came back to the UK and have stayed since. That's a little bit about my background. How I got into cycling, ultracycling in particular, I suppose, was a sort of a transition from doing triathlons in the very early years. Back in the early 80s, I started doing triathlons to keep fit. That went from sort of the Olympic distance to fairly quickly in 1985, I competed in Hawaii. which is the World Championships. Most people are pretty familiar with that event. It's become such a global brand now. And then have competed in other numerous Ironman races around the world, Japan, New Zealand, across Europe, etc. And then on top of that, I suppose I got to the race across America because of an injury. I had a running injury back in sort of early 1980. When was it? No, sorry, 2004. And one of my best mates, I was asking him about, well, what challenge could we do that wouldn't involve running? And he sort of said, have you heard about the race across America? I decided that we'd pull a 4-man team together. So we went across as a 4-man team in 2005. We finished, I thought, a credible 4th overall, a completely rookie crew, rookie riders. It was complete and utter mayhem, Lee. And I suppose what really sort of got me from the 2005 race as a 4-man team that got me really hooked was seeing the solo riders at the back end of the race. So we were catching them and overtaking them towards the back end of 2005. And I was just quite amazed that someone was doing that race, the whole race that the 4 of us had done as solo competitors. And it just blew me away. Here I was, first time veteran, sort of virgin, I should say, doing the race across America as a 4-man team. And these guys had been, done the whole lot, the whole 3,000 plus miles that year. So it sort of bit me fairly hard at the end of 2005. I decided in 2006 that I'd go for it in 2007, and that was my first experience of Ram Solo. So 2007 happened. When you finish these things, they can be very addictive. And then I felt that I could go faster, so I decided that I'd go back again. 2008, again, went faster. And then again, still felt that there was unfinished business there, so I went back again in 2009 and finished again. I suppose my best time was the 2009 race, which was 10 days, 20 hours, and 52 minutes. Blanchard, I remember distinctly with great clarity going through Blanchard, Ohio. There was a ridiculous thunderstorm that year in 2009. It was that bad that the roads were flooded. So our pass, we couldn't pass the road because it was actually flooded. I was up to my waist trying to cycle across the river that had broken and flooded the road. And realized, of course, that I could probably just get through, but I knew the car behind my follow vehicle couldn't. We had to sit that out and wait for the water to disperse, which is a shame because at the time I wasn't tired at all, so I couldn't sleep. And I sat there for 6 hours waiting for us to be able to clear the road. Seriously, Lee, that experience, that memory of Ram of 2009 and that thunderstorm, it was an electrical thunderstorm. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen as a cyclist, and just amazed by the sheer force of the lightning strikes that were going off every couple of seconds.
Well, that's quite a little race, but what have you been doing since then, Jim?
So what have I been doing since 2009? I've been gently jogging around a few Ironman triathlons. Each year I tend to set a target of doing at least an Ironman per year, just to sort of keep my toe in, just to keep fit, and still ride a little bit, but not competitively at all. So the foot operation that I was speaking to you about earlier is a correction that will help me get back into a more competitive age group, being a more competitive age grouper again in Ironman. So that's the plan.
And Jim, you've kind of translated these experiences into a job.
Yeah, well, sort of. I've been doing the job for the last 16 years. So I've been a corporate coach working with leaders and their teams for the past 16 years. So I do a lot of one-to-one executive coaching. I'm qualified in emotional intelligence. I don't like the idea of calling myself an expert, but that's my focus is mindset. What sort of mindset do you need to be a phenomenal leader in a global organization? So, if you ask an audience the question, what are the attributes that make someone world-class as a leader? Typically they shout out things like they're highly motivated, they're inspirational, they've got great energy, etc. They're really good with people, they're great listeners, etc. So they're typically aspects of emotional intelligence. You and I would probably call it common sense, but unfortunately, a lot of leaders do lack common sense. That's the area of focus for us. And let's face it, if you think about the race across America, for example, there's an element of skill, and physical prowess a cyclist needs to be able to ride that race, whether that's solo, 2-person, 4-person, 8-person, doesn't really matter how you do it. But a huge element, as you know, is mindset. What sort of mindset, what sort of willpower, determination has that individual got to be able to carry them, those 3,000 miles plus across America to be able to be a finisher of the race. I think I learn a lot, actually. I learn a lot about my ego. I'm the sort of individual that sort of wants to state something out there to the world. So I'm not afraid of sort of announcing that this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking to achieve. It sort of almost frightens me into taking action and making sure I do the training, etc. So it almost sort of puts me in a space where I say, I'm going to go and do this, and now I've got to pull my finger out and get on the bike and do the training. So, back in 2007, I stated a big claim that I wanted to be the record holder of the British record holder of the race across America. And at that time, Chris Hopkinson had done the race back in 2005. And I knew that, he did it in something like 11 days, 23. And I just knew that if I could stay on the bike and stayed injury free, I'd be able to do that in 2007. So that was my goal. Unfortunately, that year I didn't break the British record, Chris's record. I actually ended up finishing in 12 days, 4 hours, 52. And that year was the last year they actually had it extended beyond 12 days back in 2007. I scraped in with 8 minutes to spare in 2007. So I said, barring any injuries, that I ended up suffering in 2007 from Schirmer's neck. So I think it was back at Camden Town, time station 32, where we sort of finally came up with a solution, which was the neck brace that one of the crew members or two of the crew members pulled together and sort of cobbled together a bit of plastic piping and an old baseball cap, strap, and that's basically what helped me finish the race across America. Because without that, I wouldn't have been able to finish, not within the cutoff time anyway. So I ended up having to cycle just over, I think it was about 1,200 miles with the neck brace, which is, it's not fun, I can tell you. But I was absolutely determined. So you were talking about that one moment. I was absolutely determined, not to let myself down, but more importantly, my friends and family. That was critical for me, not to let them down. And of course, my crew that were there to support me as well. There are lots of mental challenges as well. I think as a solo rider, if you can't let your crew take full control of you, the rider, that can cause you major issues. And it usually took me a couple of days to let go of allowing myself to hand myself over fully to the crew and say, okay, I'm yours. You are now in control of me. You can tell me when I need to get off the bike and stay on the bike, etc. Whereas sometimes, I would probably fairly early doors within the first couple of days, wrestle with that a little bit.
I think that's a problem a lot of people have. Cyclists by and large are independent souls, Jim. The whole nature of being a cyclist is being out there, you against the world. But that to turn yourself over to a crew, that I've heard that story more than one time.
Yeah, and you are actually putting your life in their hands. They're making those life decisions on your behalf. And you've got to be okay with that. And that's why crew is such a critical aspect of, any solo races effort or any other team effort that goes across and does RAM. It's such a critical aspect of it.
Well, Jim, you've got a couple of books you've written, I know, and you have one just recently out. Tell me about them.
It's been something that's been sat on my computer for a couple of years. and I've just been pondering about pulling it together. But in essence, what I've done is I've got a book which is called Built for Greatness, which is basically a collection of inspirational quotes from great leaders, thinkers, past and obviously present as well. People like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Rockefeller's in there, Muhammad Ali, even Sylvester Stallone actually makes an entrance in my book. And what I've done is I've taken their quotes, I've done a little bit of a bio about them, when they were born, what they were all about. And then on the opposite page, I've written my view of what that quote means in today's world. So to inspire people, to help them connect to their inner greatness, to make them realize that actually they do have inner greatness inside them. And the challenge for most of us as human beings is that we get conditioned to believe that that greatness isn't there. The young kid growing up, you hear all sorts of things, look before you leap, it's too good to be true. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Who do you think you are? All those sort of things are said as you grow up. Are actually born with that inner greatness instilled. You see it in a young baby when they're first born. You see the sheer genius that's looking back at you. What this book is all about is inspiring people to reconnect to that inner greatness that's always been there. It's not gone away. It's just been dampened down by life events or what people have said perhaps that they've taken on board.
Well, you sent me a copy of the book yesterday. Of course, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I did scan through it and saw the general lay of the land, and it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, no, I'm pleased with it. I'm deliberately went for 52, which was a quote per week. So the idea is eventually I'll put it out as a potential weekly email for people that want to sort of sign up to the mailing list, etc. So that sort of thing. And I've also just finished recording the audio book for Built for Greatness as well, which I'm really excited about. So that'll be available in a couple of weeks, hopefully. It's also available on Kindle as well. Well, actually not yet, but it will be. Within the next week or so, it'll be available on Kindle. And, a lot of people like to read books on tablets. I'm still old school. I quite like the paper version. But, if people want to get it on a tablet, they can get it on a tablet as well.
You say it's going to be available on Amazon. Is that correct?
It's available on Amazon now as a paperback. So I think I might have sent you the link, Lee. And I think Rick Boothling has put it up on the RAM forum as well. So he shared it with the RAM community, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I saw it there. I will put that link right below the video. If you're watching the show on thehigherramshow.com, there's always show notes below the video. And I will put a link there so you can click on it and it'll take you right to the Amazon spot where you can buy it. For those of you who are in the United Kingdom or other parts of the world, you'll just have to sort through and find the link.
Yeah, it's available worldwide. I've also written and launched, which is on Kindle, that's just available, which is a quick guide to emotional intelligence. And again, Lee, I'll send you a copy of that so that you've got a copy so you can have a little thumb through.
We'll do that. And as I said, those links will be right below the video here on the thehigherramshow.com website. If you're not watching it on the website, just go to the website and you'll find it there.
I mean, you must, so you're watching, you're pretty much manning one of the time stations in Ohio yourself.
I don't do much staffing myself anymore because of certain limitations. But, we have a tremendous group of people, both at Oxford and Blanchester. The people there at Blanchester, they're just a very few people, and they work around the clock, do a remarkable job. Oxford is a university town, and they have a wonderful group of women there. I've often said, Jim, that Oxford, Ohio is the only town I know where women will lie about their age and say they're older than they are so they can join the Golden Prize there. You have to be 50. And I said that on air once, and turns out, lo and behold, there was a woman there who had done just that.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
But we just thank those people who do that. We started it, myself and another person, each working at a different time station. Eventually, people in the community caught the idea, they caught the vision, There were people there who had never had ridden a bicycle in years and years and years, went out and bought bikes, and one of them now has been on a Ram team. It's remarkable what's happened.
I mean, it is absolutely amazing. It's an amazing race, and I really do feel part of the family. So you mentioned that you had Ross Welton on the program recently. Ross is just up the road from me. He's probably 6 miles away. So he contacted me, and I've given him the best advice I can give him, which is steer clear of my strategy as a cyclist, because mine was more about mindset as opposed to my ability on a bike. And what fascinates me as a sort of a Ram competitor is to see the different strategies that a number of the riders use, whether they, how long they sleep, what sort of breaks they take, what they do in that first 36 hours, all of that I find absolutely fascinating. And it's a great spectacle to watch. I mean, now that they've got the, the live trackers and all that sort of stuff, it's just amazing.
Well, I go back to the day where all we had to find out what was going on was humor, and then was rumors, and then we had a time where we had a paid phone call. I forget what it was. It was $1.89, and you could call in and find out what happened at least a day ago.
That's fantastic.
But now we've got the internet, we've got GPS tracking. It's really made it much a fan sport today.
And such characters that are that make up the solo family as well. You've had the privilege of interviewing a number of them already, but they are lovely human beings. And what fascinates me is, you think that you're perhaps one of the only ones that has a spiritual aspect to you as a human being, but so many of the guys that I've met over the years, Christoph, Franz, a number of the riders that I've met along the way when I've competed, are just lovely human beings. Yuri, when I met Yuri, what a lovely human being, what a soulful individual. And, it's quite remarkable how that shows up quite a lot. It's quite consistent when you look at the solo competitors.
They don't wear that on their sleeve, Jim, or talk about it a lot. Jim, thank you for taking time to be out on the show today. We appreciate it. We hope you do well in your business efforts. We certainly thank you for what you've done.
No, you're welcome, Lee, and thank you for having me on the program this afternoon. Adios, amigos.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jim. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to meet with us, and we wish you well in your business and your other adventures in life. As always, want to thank you, the viewers, for your support. We appreciate that a great deal. We're here to advance the cause of ultracycling. That's really our reason for being here, and all the many charities that all the teams support. So when you give us likes, and you give us retweets, and you give us shares and comments on the social media when you see us there, that helps more and more people to catch the show and catch the vision of the sport of ultracycling. Thank you for your help. We have so many wonderful supporters. We appreciate every one of you a great deal. Our next show coming up will be with a person who has made her way in the world of ultracycling. You see her name on leaderboards and various places. Quite a unique individual, Dusty Dustin. We'll be looking forward to that. We'll see that again on the third Thursday of September, which should be about the 21st or thereabouts. Be looking for us. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.